All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. This is Tuesday, March 22nd, 2016. Thank you very much for being here with us for this edition of the broadcast. Very nice to be back with you and back here doing a proper show, which we have not had in quite some time. And as many of you know out there, I've been dealing with some major health issues, which have kept me sidelined for a while now, and I'll talk more about that here in the show. And it's been a slow and arduous climb back up for me, and this is really the first time I've been healthy enough to even do a proper show in almost a month. So I'm glad to be back here with you, and glad to be talking to you all out there and able to do it. Really, that's really the most important thing. I'm really it just feels good to be able to do it and not be in pain and not be just really almost unable to talk, as I have been with my speech not being right and everything. It's very tough when you have ailments that affect the thing that is your main tool. I mean, my voice and everything is a big part of this. So if that goes down, it's a disaster on all fronts. But anyway, we'll talk about that, and who knows what we'll talk about here. I got a variety of things I want to discuss with you. I'm not real interested in doing just straight news broadcasts and all that stuff anymore. I'll still do some. I was also thinking about maybe even doing just like a weekly news show, like once a week, where I do all the news in one show instead of having to do it all the time. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyway, regardless of that, I hope everybody out there is well. And speaking of that, while we're on the subject of that, one thing that a lot of people out there know about me, and some people don't, but I tell you, I can't keep my mouth shut about this. It's frustrating. I mean, right now, since it's an election year here in the United States where I live, and look, the bottom line is, not all of our listeners out there are in the United States, and not every listener is in the United States for any show like this or anything. But I tell you, you can really tell who's who and who knows what and who's informed and who isn't, and who is a poser and who isn't, and who is who's serving the agenda and who isn't during these election years, because it's insane. It's insane to see all these so-called truth shows now, or whatever you want to call them. I don't even know is there even a name for this stuff anymore? I mean, it's gotten so convoluted. I mean, what can you even call this? They used to call it the truth movement. They used to call it, whatever. None of it really has a name anymore, but I still sort of, I guess, refer to radio hosts and whatnot that talk about these subjects as, truth shows or so-called truth, whatever you want to label it. But it's amazing to me to see how many of these radio hosts and whatnot and shows that go all hog wild and focus everything on every show during election years into these phony divide and conquer bullshit left right agendas. And for those of you who know me, or maybe you don't, I don't do that. I have, and why should I? Because myself and many of you out there who are smart enough to know about these things know that it's all fake, it's all phony. All of these candidates, left, right, center, doesn't matter. If they're a politician, they're crooked. You have to be a crooked snake to even get into that world. You don't get into that world unless you're a crooked snake. So it's amazing to me to see how many supposed people who do, in non-election years who do shows, whether it be shows on, conspiracies or paranormal, aliens, UFOs, whatever have you, whatever the topics may be that these people discuss, it runs the gamut. It's amazing to me to see how many of these people who are now, instead of in the most important time in the election year, telling people, look, not to vote. If you vote, you're an idiot. All you're doing by voting is verifying. Even if you go right in, a phony name, Donald Duck, fucking Mickey Mouse, whatever. You are, by doing that, you are verifying to the establishment that their phony, flawed system is okay with you. You just don't like their candidates, and that's what they want. And I noticed this back when almost 10 years ago, when I first started on air back in 2007. Back during that time when I first started, everything was started revolving around getting people to get behind the Ron Paul campaign. And all these radio hosts and whatnot that I'd listened to for years who had talked about, the phony political left-right system and not being about all of a sudden, we're getting people. I noticed this in the time I was in 9/11 Truth Group that I started here in Dallas back in 2006. It's been 10 years. And a lot of these people that were in this group were, a lot of them were, lefties and liberals and whatnot. And I started noticing that these lefty liberals were all switching over and becoming Republicans to vote for Ron Paul. And I just said, do you guys not see this? You guys not see what the problem here is? They're getting you to trade one phony paradigm for another one under the guise of thinking that somehow this is going to help your life or improve your life. But really all it's doing is getting you dragged back into the phony political paradigm. And so it really, really, to me right now is a great time to see who's who by seeing who is trying to drag you back into the phony political paradigm. And I see a majority of so-called conspiracy or truth radio hosts or whatever you want to call them that are getting behind Donald Trump. And I'm not going to sit here and have a discussion about whether or not Donald Trump is a good candidate or Bernie Sanders or whoever, because, again, I come from the standpoint that all of these motherfuckers are crooks. And, again, it's a fact. When you do your research and you do your homework and you look into this and you figure out that all of these parties are all controlled by the same people from the top down, and you understand that it's just a phony paradigm to get you to comply and get you to give your consent that their system is still valid. Because, see, if everybody just 1 year decided not to vote, and everybody just simultaneously did, the system would collapse literally overnight. Because they rely on your consent. And even if you vote for the candidate that doesn't win or does win, it doesn't matter. You're still giving them your consent that their system is okay with you, and that by that measure, you are giving them the ability to do whatever they want. And so it's, I tell you what, it really is amazing to sit back and watch people who are, not only endorsing individual candidates, but bold-faced lying, because there's only one of two things. It's either they're lying, they're being disingenuous to their audience, or they're just flat not as informed as they try to tell you that they are. And to me, any of those things is enough to make any of these so-called truth people invalid. they sit up there and talk about all these things going on, and then all of a sudden, well, no, go vote for Donald Trump. Vote. No. Look, if they were as informed as they claim to be, they'd be telling you what I'm telling you, which is that participation. See, I'm still having trouble speaking. Participation in their system is, again, giving them the consent for them to do whatever they want to do. And boy, I tell you, a lot of people out there exposing themselves right now, getting behind getting behind Donald Trump or any political candidate for that matter. I don't care who it is. But I bring up Trump because that's who it seems to be the majority of people are getting behind. And it's just a further divide and conquer thing. And people that are endorsing that are endorsing this ideology of divide and conquer. And, the people who you see that are doing that, many of them I've been on their shows, done interviews on their shows. I say you boycott those people. Don't listen to their shows. Don't fucking, don't support them in any way. They are not your friend. They are not there looking out for you. They are there to drag you kicking and screaming. That's what it's all about, folks. Why do you think you have all these so-called conspiracy people and truth people who talk constantly about being outside of the structure and the system that the elite have set up to ensnare us in, and yet it comes an election year and all of a sudden they're throwing their support behind a candidate and trying to get you back into that? It's because so many people who have awakened to the larger paradigm and awakened to the larger conspiracy of all this stuff. Once you have figured that out, you become a threat to the system because they no longer can make you enslaved to it. And that's what a lot of these guys' job is. They want to get people like you and myself who have awakened to this stuff, and they want to find any way they can to drag us back into that system. And that's what their job is. If you're one of those people, hey, then, I suggest you turn this broadcast off now and go do that. If that's you, more power to you. But what you're not going to get here on this radio show is you're not going to get me to ever tell you to participate in the phony political system, to support a candidate left or right or center or anywhere else. I've always had that standpoint from the beginning of this show. I've had it my whole life. I mean, that's the only reason I have it now. I mean, I learned when I was in high school that the phony political system was all bullshit. These guys act like they're all separate, but behind closed doors, they're all one big team. And their job is to gangbang the public, gangbang the slaves, and get everybody back into their feudalist system. And I'm not ever going to support that. You're never going to hear me do that. So, if you're ever expecting to hear me talk about the elections or talk about presidential candidates, you're listening to the wrong goddamn show, because it's not going to happen here. Sorry, not going to do it. But I mean, I tell you, I've seen so many people who are doing this now. And to me, it just, it's funny because all the ones that I'm seeing doing it are ones that I've kind of had my eye on for a while, as being kind of suspect and wondered about because of some of the stuff they talk about. And then, of course, you see them getting behind Donald Trump and getting behind any political candidates. And then you go, okay, well, they showed you their cards. Because they are supporting these candidates because they support these agendas and ideologies that these people have that they've tried to foist on the public who listen to their shows, who are looking for alternatives. And it's a very sneaky way that they've used the alternative information outlets to drag people who have, again, separated themselves from this back into that phony political paradigm by making people believe that these candidates stand for the things they stand for. It's a trick. Don't fall for it. You're smarter than that. And that's it. That's all there is to it. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating for me because a lot of the, when I make a film and I put out a film, I rely on a lot of these shows to go and do promotion and whatnot. And it's very difficult for me to want to go and do interviews on some of these shows because I don't want the people who hear me on those shows to think that I somehow, because this is just a simple-minded way people look at things. It's not people's fault, but it is kind of a guilt by association thing, and it's just a natural way that people think. People think that if I go and appear on somebody's radio show, that must mean that I agree with everything that host says or does, even out of the context of the interview that I'm on. And I know to some of you that, rightly so, that sounds silly, but unfortunately, it's a way a lot of people think. So if I go on a radio show to do an interview to reach more people and get my workout to more people, not in all people's eyes, but in some people's eyes, that's seen as me being on board with that person, and it's just not the case. And sometimes, I'm unable to do it. I mean, look, I've been on a lot of shows, and I certainly don't agree with any of those. Most of the people whose shows I've been on the stuff. But what are you going to do? I've got to get the information out, and I've got to be able to reach more people. So, but it's been a long, hard road here. Pulling myself back up from being ill, and a lot of you out there know me and know my story and have been listening to me for a while. But I started broadcasting almost 9 years ago, back in 2007. A lot has changed during that time. I've changed a lot during that time, and back around 2009 or so, I made the decision to dedicate my entire life to this. I have dedicated my entire life to the search for truth. It is my life. It is what I do. And a lot of these people who host shows and whatnot, they are not dedicated to this, to the true search for truth in the way that I am, yet they're somehow seen as such. And that's frustrating for me. Most of these people who do radio shows, they're not researchers. I'm a researcher first and foremost. I'm not a radio host by trade. That's not what I do. I'm a researcher first and foremost. I'm a researcher who started doing a radio show based on research. Whereas most of the people out there are radio hosts, and the information that they put out is largely based on the work that other people have done. That's not me. I do my own research and my own work, and then I bring it and present it to an audience. And honestly, there aren't a whole lot of other people. I can't really even think of another one off the top of my head anymore out there like me that are like that. These people are just regurgitators, really. I have dedicated my entire life to my personal search for the truth and quest for the truth. And in that, I have dedicated myself to bringing that to you, to the public, to the people out there who have the ears and the eyes to see it. I mean, this stuff isn't for everybody, and that's okay. I'm not trying to reach the mass consensus public with this stuff. I'm trying to reach the people who are unique and who have really the mind and the vision to understand and wrap their minds around this stuff. And it's very difficult. I mean, you have to be willing to throw out everything you think you know, everything you've been taught. You have to be willing to accept that most of that is almost everything you've been lied to about. And that's difficult for a lot of people. But there is nothing else for me. This is my life. This is what I've dedicated myself to do. And in the past 9 years, I've released tons of films, YouTube videos, audiobooks. I mean, I get messages still every day about a lot of the audiobooks that I've done, and we get a lot of views and hits on our YouTube stuff that we put up. But I look at some of these numbers and I think, if I get 600 views on a video in a week, I know that all 600 of those people have not seen all of my films or heard all my audiobooks. If you're one of those people, you definitely want to go to my website, theglobalreality.com. Right there in the middle of the page, there's a link that says purchase all Josh Reeves available documentaries, including the latest volume of The Lost Secrets of Ancient America, along with all the audiobooks. Click that, and it'll take you to the download shop. There's tons of stuff in there, and I think there's tons of stuff in there. People who are fans of the audiobooks, there are audiobooks in there that have never been put up on YouTube that have been recorded outside of the context of the radio show and are in there, that download shop. There's tons of stuff in there. I mean, I doubt that every single one of you listening to this show right now have seen my Lost Secrets of Ancient America films. And between those two films, that's 6 hours of film, of information that is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, I've gotten so many comments and messages about my Emerald Tablets of Thoth reading and the Lost Book of Enki reading, and people interested in the Anunnaki stuff and all that. And I'm sitting there going, you do know I made films, Lost Secrets of Ancient America, where I actually show how I found evidence of the Anunnaki being in North America. A lot of them don't even know that. So there's tons of stuff there in our download shop that you should go and check out and purchase downloads of. We've got the Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 1 and Volume 2 is in there. We've got a Live in Houston talk I did on the rock wall up there. Lost Book of Enki reading is there. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Operation Haiti Quake film I made back, that was banned from YouTube, I made back in 2009, that details the Haiti earthquake and who was really behind that. 2 audiobooks that aren't on YouTube that you absolutely must hear if you're a fan of my audiobooks is Atlantis and the Giants and Our History of Atlantis, which is culled from a very rare book. Both of those are very rare books, but Our History of Atlantis is taken from an internal secret society annals on Atlantis and has some very, very amazing stuff in it. Those are up there. They're $10 each. We also have transhumanism audio set. There's one called Funniest Rants and Skits, where it's just some of my funny moments and stuff that I've done through the years. Of course, The Secret Right, Volume 1 and Volume 2, which details the secretive right-wing group, the Council for National Policy, and some of these people who actually control the so-called truth movement and whatnot. You got to see those films. There's also a 7 audiobook mega pack. We sell a lot of the audiobooks individually for $10, but you can get one up there for $30 that has seven books in one pack, including Lost Book of Enki, Atlantis and the Giants, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Kabbalion, the Gods of Eden, the End of Days by Zachariah Sitchin, and There Were Giants Upon the Earth. 7 in one pack for $30. That's a lot of audio, so you definitely want to check that one out if you haven't heard that. I've also got Global Reality, the first 7 years. So if you weren't around to hear a lot of the radio shows I did between 2007 and 2014, you can get a collection for $20 that's 17 MP3s that totals 50 hours of audio that's painstakingly collected from some of the best bits of the first 7 years of this show. That's up there in our audio shop as well, in our download shop. We also have the films of Josh Reeves in one pack for $35. These are little smaller files than you get with the individual films, but you can get every one of my films there in one pack for $35. That's really the best deal. Just get them all in one shot. And then we have the Reality of Illusion series. That was a mini film series I did. I started back in, I think, 2008, 2009, something like that. And the Operation Haitiquake film was a part of that. I put that out and edited it in one film. It's like an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half long. It's up there. And then my most recent Secret Messages series is also available. There's tons of stuff in the download shop, so definitely go and get yourself some downloads. I know all of you out there listening have not heard all of these audiobooks. I know every one of you out there listening has not seen all these films. And they are, especially Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1 and Volume 2, but all my films, they're nonstop information. There's no filler in these things. It's information front to back, and they're definitely ones that you can watch and listen to multiple times, because there's so much information, you're not going to get it all in one shot anyway. But as I said, I've dedicated my entire life to doing this. I've sacrificed a lot. Most of the things of a normal life I've sacrificed to do this. And it's not easy. It hasn't been easy. But I made the decision back in 2009 that I was going to basically surrender myself to the universe and know that doing the right thing for the right reason will always make me be okay, But it's been tough. And this past month it's been super tough. It's taken literally every penny that I could scrape, and I've had to sell belongings and everything else. It's literally taken everything to get back to health here, folks. And frankly, right now I'm not doing so good, because literally it took every penny for me to get back to health here. And I'm trying to finish a film. And I'm no joke about it. I'm literally bankrupt. I literally have not one penny to my name right now, folks. I have not even enough money to buy dinner and eat. I've been living hand to mouth for the past several weeks, because I literally had to sell almost everything just to be able to get back to health here. And I know there aren't very many other people out there who, at all, I can't think of another one, who would sacrifice and dedicate themselves to the search for truth the way I have. And but I'm not going to pull any punches here. I'm at the lowest point I've ever been in all my years doing this. And I'm on the verge of having 3 new films released this year. But I have nothing left in the tank, folks. I'm to the point where this is the lowest point I've ever been at. So that's why I want to encourage you to go and get some downloads from our download shop and stuff. If you hadn't seen all those films, now's the time to go do that. You can also donate at my website at the donate button there, or at our little operating cost goal. Because I'm, now that I'm feeling better, I'm ready to get back full blast into doing this, get these films done, get them out, get the radio show cranking back up again. But this is just the absolute lowest point. I've asked people over the past month or so since I've been going through this to support us. We haven't had any in, none whatsoever. And it's terrible, folks. I'm literally 1 foot in the gutter right now. It's bad. And it's all because years and years and years ago, I made my decision to separate myself from from the enslavement system and dedicate myself 100% to finding truth and putting it out there for you. And, I just don't get the same kind of dedication in return. It's unbelievable. I mean, I've worked my ass off 24/7 with no vacation, no breaks, no paycheck at the end of the week for literally years to do this. And, I guess I kind of expected that, health problems out of my control, I might, people might be there for me and try and support me during the tough times, and I've had none. And it hurts, it does. It hurts because I've dedicated myself unselfishly to this for everybody. And, I don't get that same kind of respect in return. And that's, it's a frustrating thing. But I know everybody out there listening has not seen all of my films. I know you haven't heard all these audiobooks. And never think that any contribution is too small. But literally right now, I'm literally bankrupt. I'm literally, because every dollar I've gotten in ever for this stuff goes right back into this. It goes right back into the films. It goes right back into paying the operating costs to stay alive every month and keep this thing going. But, being down for almost a month with health problems and not being able to broadcast, has hurt me tremendously. I was expected to have my film out by now. I haven't been able to do that. So it's, it's a tough thing. And this is not just about keeping this work and everything going like it usually is. This is literally about keeping myself alive, which has been very difficult. And that's why I've got to have your support right now, folks. I've got to have every single person out there who can contribute anything, whether it be buying a download or making a donation or whatever. I've got to have every single one of you out there doing it right now, today, because it's bad, and I can't even put into words how bad it is or even describe it, because it's just it's tough, man. And it's weird, I get anonymous emails sometimes from people who don't make themselves apparent, and I got one yesterday, and it just said, Josh Reeves, never, never, never stop finding the truth. And I won't. I won't quit. But I've reached the point where this month where it's not about quitting. It's about the fact that, after years of dedicating myself to the audience and to the people out there and to the search for truth and bringing this to people, at my most darkest hour, hell, when I had these health problems and all kinds of, I haven't even told you about all the stuff that has been aimed at me for this film, The Spellcasters, I'm working on, because they're so scared of this film, because it's just like I was talking about earlier about the people who are trying to tell you to go out there and vote for these candidates and whatnot. This film is going to expose a lot of people who have propped themselves up as truth tellers and stuff for many years. It's a further continuation of that. And nobody else is doing the things and making the films about the subjects that I am. Nobody. And these things that have happened this month have been out of my control. I wish I wouldn't have been sick and had these health problems and had to, sell everything to scrape every penny just to be able to get back up to where I am now. But that's what had to be done. But I've got to have support to be able to keep going now that I've gotten back up here. and I'm just not getting it. So we're in a dire situation here. All right. Well, that's all for now. We'll talk again soon. Josh Reeves, over and out.